Got dreams of being a professional podcaster, but have no idea what you're doing?
This is impossible.
That's about to change.
A new kind of school.
Welcome to the Pod School Podcast.
Hello, welcome to the show. Today's question is from Trisha, who says, how do you judge good audio when you're starting out? And what about editing? How do you make those decisions? Great question. I know I say that every week. It's like those people have a guest, and every time they have a guest, they say I'm so excited to have you. I'm doing that with the questions. Every question is a great question. But they're really good questions. Please submit yours in the description of the episode. I've got a link down there. So this is really good because there's no short answer. The answer is you have to train your ear. And the way that you train your ear is by listening. You do that by listening to other podcasts. I would say that this is a bit more of a subconscious process. Because when you're listening to a really professionally made podcast and you're a beginner, really hard to discern what you're listening to. But the more of that information that goes in the blender, the more you'll be able to whiz out something and you won't even know that you've understood it. So I think it's like an author, authors read a lot of books because they need to know how other people do it. They need to sort of read stuff and go, oh, I really like that for some reason. And, oh, that's a really good idea. I might, use that in the future. Same thing with podcasts. You want to be listening to so many so that you can get a sense of what do you like? Why do I like it? What do you not like? Why do I not like it? All of those kind of things will really help you to make better decisions, and you won't even kind of realize because it'll all be in your subconscious. The trick to this is training your ear and training your brain on this stuff. You need to start to get into a space where you can understand what a bad and a good edit sounds like. And I can tell you right now that takes time. I get some resumes and edits from people who are applying for jobs who have experience in the industry, and they will still make edits that are obvious. And I'm like, I can tell you the 4 places you've cut this. So that amazes and surprises me because it's something that even if you do it a lot, you can sometimes not do it. So you really have to be mindful about making sure you are trying to do this, not just kind of editing. I mean, heaven forbid you ever edit and you're watching the telly at the same time, or, you're trying to edit and you're trying to do something else. Never, it takes full concentration. So that would be my first tip. When you are listening to audio and you're editing audio, it needs your full concentration because you will look at the TV or do something else and you'll skip over a word or a question or a stumble, and you need to be fully focused on that audio. You need to be listening out for things like, does this sound like a natural conversation? If you are editing things and you cut something out, you want to go back and listen to quite a significant, not 4 minutes before that spot, but at least 10 or 15 seconds before that spot. So you can listen to the whole sentence, how it rolls into that edited bit and how it rolls out of that edited bit. And you want to listen like that. And I'll often close my eyes and listen and just say, does it just sound like it was recorded in one go? Does it just sound like a normal conversation? You will notice once you're paying attention, oh, those 2 words were really close together. That doesn't sound like how a normal person sounds. That really needs a breath in between it. And I will always have like a breath file and a silence file saved in my editing session so that if I need a bit of space in between something, I can just drag in a breath and I'll make sure it sounds good. Sometimes if it doesn't sound right, I'll grab another breath from another spot and I'll put that in to try and separate words, or I'll put in a little bit of silence because sometimes you just need a little bit of space. I would say that one of the things that I notice in terms of bad editing is that it is always over-edited rather than under-edited. So bad editing is when things are so tightly edited that it sounds like this is chopping from this bit and then it goes to, and then it chops to this bit. And I'm just like, did you listen back to this or did you just give it one pass and go? And that's the other key is when you are doing editing, if you're doing it properly, your first pass is going to be a big kind of machete chop. You go through and you chuck out big chunks of your content. Next, you're going through and you're making sure that all makes sense, but then all of the fine editing bits happen, so you want to make sure that you're kind of tweaking those things. So you might listen to it three times. I'd easily listen to content that I'm editing 3 times. You want to make sure that there's a final pass through where the idea is that you're not doing any more editing. You just want to hear what it sounds like from beginning to end, and you want that to sound seamless and there's no jumps and no quick cuts and everything sounds like it was just recorded in one go. So that's really what you're listening listening for? Obviously, you also want to listen out for anything in the background, any echo. Is there anything that makes it sound like this person is further away from me? Echo can make that happen. You can get a lot of room noise. There might be a buzz in the background. There are some tools like Adobe Enhance that can help you to remove some of that background noise. Right now, I am recording with my child in bed, and I can tell you she has got white noise on that sounds like a jet plane. But I am hoping that by the time this gets to you, it's not going to sound that way because I'm going to tweak it a little bit while also not tweaking my voice too much, because that's something that can happen if you're pulling stuff out of the background. But life happens, right? I've got episodes to record today and I have very few windows of time in my life. And the fact that my child is now asleep is one of those windows, and I have nowhere else to record but outside her room. So white noise, it's a going. And that's where we are. But you need to be able to hear those things. And then if you remove those things using a tool like Adobe Enhance, you also need to listen for, does this make me sound robotic? Do I still sound like me? Has this removed too much of the warmth in my voice? And is it electronic? Now that sounds technical, right? Because you're like, well, what's warmth? What's a robotic sound? But really, you're just listening and saying, does this sound normal? Does this sound like a normal person to me? Or does it sound like a computer's made it? Or does it sound, it's really just, if I was an audience member and I had this in my ears, would I feel like someone was sitting next to me, talking to me? A real person was sitting there talking to me? Or would this feel a bit like it's overproduced? Those are the kind of things you need to start to tap into. And those are the things that will become easier to notice the more you listen to content, both your own and other content, so that you can really start to pick up on those things. And hearing bad edits is great because it makes you realize, oh, that's what it sounds like. That sounds too edited, those kind of things. So if you're editing early and you're making mistakes, fantastic. That will help you learn. So it's really about training your ear. It's about listening out for those things and just paying full attention when you are editing and recording your show, because if you're trying to do it with one eye or one ear on something else, you'll miss things for sure. Hope that's helped you, Tricia, and thank you so much for your question. If you would like a little help with your podcast, make sure you check out details of my podcast course, Pod School, in the link in the description of the episodes. There's also a free resource there that is my equipment guide that gives you all the tools and tech that you need to set up your own home studio if you're like, I'm ready to give this darn thing a crack. And I'll see you next week.
That's all for today.